Hello, in this video I'm going to be showing you my top 10 new series novels. In case you're interested, I'm going to do a separate one for classic books because I haven't read them recently, so I don't think it would be a very good list. Anyway, let's get started. First of all, I've picked In the Blood, which I actually only read the other day, and it was that good that it made it straight onto the top 10. I won't spoil it for anybody, but I was not expecting to like this book as much as I did. Despite the Doctor and Donna being one of my all-time favourite TARDIS teams. There are a lot of twists and surprises I completely wasn't expecting. I mean, I didn't know anything about this before I started reading. I didn't even read the synopsis. But the plot revolves around a threat spread through the internet, which instantly reminded me of Bells of St. John. And given how that turned out, I didn't have too much hope. But it's cleverly used in this to propel the Doctor on this quest around the world, and I think the books can get away with being a bit more fantastical than TV, obviously because of the budget. But it was so cool to see the Doctor and Donna in all these film-like escapades, so that's why it made it onto this list. Next we have another 10th Doctor book, which I promise they're not all 10th Doctor, but I had to put this one on the list because I love it. I spent a lot of time in the library at school, and this book was one of the reasons why. I'm a big fan of novels that explore monsters from Who, such as Crullitanes, in more detail, so it was really interesting to see them in a different context, especially as we're teased about their previous forms in School Reunion. Oh, nice one, Terry. Also, this book has this lovely little illustration in, and if that's not good enough reason to put it on the list, then I don't know what is. Next is obviously Engines of War by one of my favourite Who authors, George Mann. I absolutely love the War Doctor in Day, so as soon as this came out I knew I needed it, and thankfully it didn't disappoint. I really like the companion in this. I think her name is Cindy. She's really likeable, and it's great to see the War Doctor slightly more cheery than he is in the 50th, obviously. So if you haven't, I strongly suggest you read this. What a surprise! Another 10th Doctor book! I've picked these books based on the stories, not the Doctors, I promise. Again, another story based on monsters we've already seen in the show, but I love this. Imagine the scene in Rose, where all the Autons in the shopping centre come out. Well, that's basically this whole story. It takes place in one night, I think, in a shopping centre. And there are two things I really like most about this book. The first being that the Doctor is travelling alone. I like books where the Doctor doesn't have a companion for some reason. And the other thing being one of the main characters is a journalist, which maybe I'm a bit biased because that's the career I want to go into, but it makes for an often inquisitive and feisty character, which I really like Lucy from Return of Dr. Mysterio. She's cool. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling about journalists now. The first 11th Doctor book on my list, which is surprising, I know, it's Tales of Trenzalore. I know this is an anthology of 4 separate stories, so it's technically not just one novel, but I wanted to include it because it's awesome. The stories are obviously set when the Doctor is on Trenzalore during the time of the Doctor, and each one features a different monster, as you can see on the front cover. So you've got a Crinoid, an Auton, an Ice Warrior, and the Mara. All these stories were really gripping, but my least favourite was definitely the Auton one. I just couldn't get into it at all. I'm sorry. But at least I put Autonomy on the list to make up for it. And another anthology type book, sorry, but The Legends of Ashildr has to be on this list because it's amazing. I love the idea of keeping journals, even though I don't do it personally, but these stories, well, the last 2 anyway, are essentially taken from Ashildr's diaries and are fleshed out versions of the things she briefly mentioned in The Woman Who Lived. So like the plague and her children are mentioned. And the first 2 stories are tales about Ashildr, so it's interesting to have those 2 different perspectives. So it's more of an insight into her adventures. If you don't particularly like Ashildr, then I'd still recommend this book, as it's an interesting read. One of the stories was also written by Jenny T. Colgan, who wrote In the Blood, so clearly I like her books. I believe there's also a Legends of Riversong in this series as well, so I hope they bring out more. Maybe we can have a Legends of Nardal. That would be nice. Next I've chosen Plague of the Seidman, which has a really awesome cover, but that's not why I picked it. I think. It's been a while since I read this, but I remember reading the whole thing in one sitting. It was that gripping. I usually read books in one sitting anyway, but if I didn't, then I would... What am I saying? Again, the Doctor is companionless in this story, so you get to see him befriend someone new, a school teacher, I think. It's just nice to have an 11th Doctor Seidman story that's actually engaging. No offence to Nightmare on Silver, I just thought it was a little bit disappointing. Winner Takes All was the first Doctor Who series adventure I ever read, so I think it deserves to be on the list, and because of this book I claim that Jacqueline Rayner is my favourite Doctor Who author, which is probably still true. The monsters in this book look like my favourite animal, which is apparently enough reason to make me like a book. Stick some hedgehogs or porcupines in it. But if you enjoyed Warriors of Kudlat, a Sarah Jane Adventure story, then chances are you'll probably enjoy this. Zygons! I think this book had to make it onto my list, because I love Zygons. There's also a Scaracin in this book, which is nice to see since there hasn't been one in Modern Who. Although the Zygons are obviously great, what I liked about this book was actually how Martha was portrayed. It's set in 1909 and she eventually gets separated from the Doctor, which gave us the chance to see how Martha would deal in that setting. I believe there's a racism plot point or a comment or something which sees Martha being strong and asserting herself, like she does in Human Nature, so it's nice to see that Stephen Cole, the author, exploited that side of her character. So this isn't just a book with some beautiful aliens in, it also has a deeper and more meaningful point as well. And last but not least, a book that I have talked about before on this channel, Plague City. That's the second Plague book on this list. That's a bit odd. Technically third Plague book. Oh, this book is fantastic. I adore the chemistry between the Dr. Bill and Nardole, and I think I read this at the start of Series 10, so we hadn't seen much interaction between Bill and Nardole at this point. So it was intriguing to learn about more things that hadn't been in the show yet. Much like Sting of the Zygons, there's a point in the story where Bill is separated from the Doctor and has to fend for herself in this unfamiliar setting, giving us a chance to see how Bill copes by herself, which should have been seen in the Monk trilogy, but it wasn't. Oh well. This is my favourite of all the 12th Doctor novels by far, so please check it out if you haven't. And those are my top 10 modern Doctor Who novels. Let me know what yours are or if there's any I should check out. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video.